she suffers from such a rare disorder of being unable to just be a human. Why does she struggle so much with humanity? She can't even act like herself.
I mean, when I listen to Meghan, I am just reminded that there's nothing authentic there.
You're never going to convince anyone that you're authentic.
I'm working so hard. Is she really?
I feel like it's pretty safe to say that Meghan Markle is like a liar.
Candace Owens didn't just criticize Meghan Markle, she destroyed her. In a scathing takedown that left social media buzzing, Owens called Meghan a complete liar and accused her of being completely incapable of acting like a real human being.
I'm so grateful you're here. Yes. It's gonna be fun.
Hi, crew.
You made me cry. Good thing I have no makeup on.
You look so pretty.
I have not done a show in no makeup since my 1,000 QVC shows.
Do you think I have?
I've never seen someone that struggles to just give us one strip of authenticity.
I just feel like at this point, she's gotten a lot of opportunities to tell us something interesting. You're dying to tell us stuff, but none of it has any substance to it.
And that's just one of the firestorms Meghan's been caught in lately. From a cringeworthy podcast performance that had viewers questioning every tear, to a Netflix series so out of touch it tanked her relatability overnight. This isn't just a bad PR week. This is a slow-motion collapse of an entire media empire. So the question isn't what went wrong. The real question is, has Meghan Markle finally run out of people willing to believe the performance? Let's break it down.
Thank you for trusting me with your first ever podcast. And with your friendship.
It means a lot, Jamie. Thank you.
Yeah.
I'm a very accepting person. Truly, I want to like something about her. I'm searching for something to like about her, and it's so hard.
You know, she also had to tell us at the Time 100 thing that she's the happiest she's ever been. How many people do you know have to convince you that they're the happiest that they've ever been in their life? This is all just Meghan Markle's stage. We're expected to buy it.
She wants us to believe that she went from being a D-list actress from a show that nobody that I know watched, Suits, okay, to becoming Martha Stewart in 3 years. This is totally authentic.
In 2020, Meghan Markle landed a massive $20 million deal with Spotify to launch her own podcast series. It was hailed as a groundbreaking step, a chance for the Duchess to finally control her own narrative, shine a light on women's voices, and deliver meaningful conversations that challenge stereotypes. And for a moment, it actually looked promising. The show, called Archetypes, debuted in 2022 with massive buzz and even managed to knock Joe Rogan out of the top spot. For a week, Meghan brought on A-list guests like Serena Williams and Mariah Carey, promising unfiltered, honest discussions about how women are boxed into roles and expectations. It was glossy, it was high profile, and it was completely overproduced. Because as soon as the hype faded, reality hit. Critics said the episodes felt scripted and sterile, like a lecture series wrapped in royalty. Listeners complained about the lack of spontaneity. It was Meghan talking about Meghan, wrapped in themes about other women. Even The Independent called it the most self-congratulatory 57 minutes of audio you'll hear all year. Behind the scenes, Spotify was reportedly frustrated. They expected a hit. Instead, they got a perfectly polished show that didn't connect with real people. Meghan and Harry had promised to produce a certain number of episodes. They didn't deliver. By mid-2023, Spotify had enough. The deal was pulled, canceled, gone. But the most brutal blow came from a Spotify executive who reportedly called the royal couple, quote, entitled. That comment went viral.
It flopped. It flopped really hard despite Spotify trying to push it, and they realized that these two don't really want to work, okay? Spotify, I think, ended up canceling the rest of their deal. There was no use. There was no money in it.
What happened to Spotify? The critics were horrible about With Love, Meghan. You sold inventory that you didn't have on asever.com. People are still waiting for their refund.
And suddenly, it wasn't just about a failed podcast. It was about the illusion crumbling. A royal turned podcaster who couldn't deliver content or authenticity. And it gets worse, because even after the Archetypes fallout, Meghan wasn't done with media. She had another project lined up, a lifestyle brand meant to be her passion project, her goop, her Martha Stewart moment. Except that, too, turned into a PR disaster. And when you hear what went down with that launch, you might just ask yourself, is this all part of the plan? Or is Meghan Markle in over her head? Fresh off the Spotify fallout, Meghan pivoted hard. Her next big move? A lifestyle brand called As Ever. Think candles, wellness, handwritten notes to your kids, all wrapped in a soft focus Instagram aesthetic. It was pitched as deeply personal, purpose-driven, authentic, and once again, the marketing played the vulnerability card. During that infamous Jamie Kern-Lima podcast, Meghan read a letter she says she wrote to her kids. Her voice trembled. She wiped tears. The host gasped, called it beautiful, and Meghan, smiling faintly, whispered, "This is why it's nice not to wear makeup." That clip spread fast, but not for the reasons she hoped. Online, users weren't moved. They were suspicious. Commenters accused Meghan of scripted sadness, calling it a performance for sympathy designed to boost her brand. brand. Even the no makeup look, the carefully tousled hair, the perfectly lit camera shot was labeled strategic relatability.
So beautiful.
Oh, I don't know. I wasn't expecting that one.
Sure you were.
Yeah, they're just it's just so great. This is why it's so nice to not have makeup on. Thank you.
The one thing she is to sell to us is relatability. The one thing she's for more than anything is for us to love her, and she can't get it across the finish line.
Then came the real trouble, as Ever began selling out of products almost immediately, but customers didn't get their orders. Complaints flooded social media. Refunds were delayed. Critics claimed Meghan's team had oversold inventory they didn't even have. And that image of a hands-on, hard-working mom building a brand from the ground up, it cracked. The Daily Mail quoted royal insiders who called the podcast moment desperate, and royal commentator Alexander Lerman said the entire launch was pathetic and painful to watch. On Reddit, fans who once defended her started turning, saying even the feminist messaging felt hollow, more like a PR move than a mission. And when she spoke about her work ethic, juggling emails, product design, Netflix edits, social media captions, motherhood, and friendship, it didn't land. People weren't inspired, they were annoyed. Because let's be honest, when you've got a staff, a platform, and multi-million-dollar deals, talking about how grueling it is to write Instagram captions just doesn't hit the same.
But she said she was in the trenches. She alludes to being in the trenches when she was in the British royal family. Girl, you lived in a castle. Like, you got a princess title.
Oh my gosh, I work so hard, and I like working hard, and I'm still working hard. The moment that everything sells out, it doesn't mean that we're done. Yeah. It means we're working on replenishment, and what are the next SKUs, and what's the next tranche of products, and what's the timing on that, and writing the newsletters, and writing the social media captions, and making sure that all that feels in line.
Being one of the most privileged people on the planet, she still won't talk about how hardworking she is, which includes coming up with Instagram captions.
And being a mom and a wife and a friend.
Oh, yeah,
Those
that's
are
right.
all jobs. I mean, I love being that busy, but I do think it's really interesting when people have no sense of what goes into the thing.
Yeah.
It's too much for me. There's only small doses of that podcast I can consume.
The finish line was really the starting line.
That would infuriate me, like, as someone who's trying to start a business, struggling, because like you're
Hard
in
to
the
get.
royal family.
Yes.
So to complain about, oh, the business, you don't have to, if you don't want to show up, if you don't want to do the schedule, you don't have to do anything you don't want to do.
Right.
You're living in literally like a fantasy tale.
Talking about how hard it is to be a working mom. Most of the working mothers in America do not have help.
Exactly right, exactly right.
So while Meghan pitched As Ever as a soulful personal brand, the public saw it differently. A glossy attempt at relatability from someone who's living in a California mansion with private security and royal titles. And just when people thought things couldn't feel more out of touch, Meghan launched a Netflix show. Enter with love, Meghan, a cozy lifestyle series set in Meghan's stunning Montecito estate, where she invites friends to garden, cook, and discuss their passions over chamomile tea and ceramic mugs. It had all the makings of a Pinterest dream, but instead it turned into a public relations nightmare. The reviews were brutal. Celebrity chef Jameson Stock, who's cooked for King Charles, slammed the series as terrible and painful to watch, saying he rejected a Netflix offer to consult because it felt forced and fake. When Netflix allegedly responded with legal threats, he doubled down. I don't think she can cook, he said, but she should stick to acting. She's actually good at that. Critics weren't kinder. Variety called it a Montecito ego trip not worth taking. The Independent said it was gormless, pointless, and an exercise in stupidity. And audiences, they weren't watching. The show got a dismal 2.4 out of 10 on IMDb and just 11% on Rotten Tomatoes, with viewers calling it unwatchable and just plain sad. One viral review summed it up best. This isn't even a fun hate watch, it's just bad, and the content didn't help. Moments like Meghan whispering "good night, sweetheart" to a cake before putting it in the oven were meant to feel intimate. Instead, they were joked as weird and self-indulgent, the kind of thing that might appeal to Oprah and literally no one else. The bigger issue? It was all so polished, so pristine that it barely resembled real life. In a time when people are struggling with rent, inflation, and burnout, a show about a millionaire duchess gently folding linen napkins and humming in the garden felt insulting.
Essentially, the series is about her inviting her friends and famous guests to a beautiful California estate, which is where she cooks and she gardens and she hosts trips. I guess now she's going to be Martha Stewart.
Let's make a show.
Let's go.
The music in the background. Do you believe in magic? I think I understand why it is she was a D-list actress, because she can't even act like herself. Who does this appeal to? Oh, her neighbors are about the people who could probably afford the ingredients and could have a backyard filled with honeybees. This could appeal to Oprah Winfrey and basically no one else, least of all in the economy that we're all just coming out of.
This is a joke, and I'm tired of some of these media outlets continuing to elevate this person when the reality is she's a grifter. Fake it till you make it. We don't accept that anymore. We want authenticity.
Yet, Meghan seemed unaware, because to her, this was the real Meghan, the soft, nurturing creative who writes love notes to her kids, juggles brand meetings, and bakes lavender cakes in her spare time. But for everyone else, it felt like one big show. And it begged the question, is Meghan Markle trying to reinvent herself or rebrand her image one failed media project at a time? Because next up was a firestorm of backlash that brought in some of the biggest conservative voices in media, and they didn't hold back. If Meghan Markle thought public criticism was rough before, she hadn't seen anything yet. Because after the Netflix flop and the podcast tears, some of the most outspoken voices in media stepped in, and they didn't hold back. First came Candace Owens. Known for her unapologetic takes and zero-filter delivery, Owens called Meghan, flat out, a complete liar. She said Meghan doesn't just hide her real self, she can't even act like a real person. To Owens, it wasn't about the podcast tears or the failed shows. It was something deeper, a fundamental disconnect between Meghan and authenticity. And then came Megyn Kelly, who's been one of Meghan's most consistent and vocal critics. But this time, she escalated the rhetoric. Kelly labeled Meghan a malignant B-word, someone who uses every opportunity not to connect, but to manipulate. According to her, every appearance, every sob story, every polished "I'm just like you" performance is part of a bigger plan to milk sympathy, boost her brand, and control her image at all costs. It wasn't just personal attacks either. Kelly dissected Meghan's supposed hardworking mom narrative and threw it into the fire. She brought up tax documents showing Meghan and Harry reportedly worked 1 hour a week during the peak of their public projects. 1 hour. Yet here was Meghan talking about how hard it is to juggle social media captions, Netflix edits, product launches, and parenting. To critics, it was tone deaf. To working mothers juggling multiple jobs and no help, it was insulting. But Owens and Kelly weren't the only ones speaking up. Dave Portnoy from Barstool Sports, never known for subtlety, jumped in too. He roasted the idea that Meghan was overworked or under pressure, calling her unrelatable to the extreme. In his words, most entrepreneurs don't start companies from a castle with a team of assistants and a global spotlight. They do it with risk, debt, and no safety net. Meghan, she had a royal title, a Netflix contract, and PR advisors on speed dial. It wasn't just media figures. Social media lit up. Memes, parodies, hashtags. People started tallying how often Meghan said the word "me" in her interviews. They pointed out how many of her stories circled back to her struggles, her emotions, her journey, even when the topic was supposed to be about other women. And that's where things started to shift. The backlash wasn't just about one podcast or a flopped show. It was about a growing perception that Meghan Markle wasn't building a brand. She was building a fantasy, one that increasingly the public just wasn't buying. While Meghan took the spotlight and the heat, something strange started happening behind her. People began turning on the host. Jamie Kern-Lima, founder of IT Cosmetics and self-made entrepreneur, was supposed to be the grounded, soulful guide of her show, the person who helped women tell their stories and open up. But in this episode, she came off like Meghan's hype woman. From the very first minute, Lima showered Meghan with praise. "You're so brave. You're so real. You made me cry." Her tone, high-pitched, overly bubbly, almost cartoonish. Viewers didn't hear a conversation. They heard a script, and they noticed. One viral comment said it felt like watching a press junket, not a podcast. Another joked it was like Between Two Ferns without the humor. Some accused Lima of reading off talking points straight from Meghan's PR team. At points, their emotional rhythm was so synchronized that it felt rehearsed. One cried, the other gasped. One paused, the other whispered. Critics asked, was this an interview or a performance? Even Lima's most loyal fans were confused. They'd seen her deliver powerful, raw episodes before, but this one felt different. Too polished, too soft, too afraid to challenge anything. Instead of pushing for clarity or digging deeper, Lima echoed Meghan's words like a mirror. The compliments kept coming, and the questions never did. And it wasn't just tone, it was content. At one point, Lima brought up how Meghan, just by wearing a certain pair of jeans, had helped women escape human. Viewers were stunned. The line wasn't followed up, explained, or fact-checked. It was just left hanging, like something out of a PR fantasy. The backlash was immediate. On X, on Reddit, on YouTube, people began lumping Lima into the same criticism as Meghan. Try-hard sincerity, emotional manipulation, a billionaire playing empath. The takeaway? When both the guest and the host seem like they're acting, even the most heartfelt moment starts to look fake. And if that moment was supposed to rebuild Meghan's image, it might have done the opposite. Because what came next was the final blow. A Netflix show that not only flopped, but made people question if Meghan actually understands who her audience even is. By this point, Meghan Markle wasn't just facing bad reviews. She was in a full-blown image spiral, and the internet couldn't look away. Everything she did started getting second-guessed. Everything she said was replayed, clipped, and picked apart. And what was once seen as empowering was now being labeled inauthentic, performative, even dangerous to her brand. Remember the Time magazine cover where Meghan and Harry were listed among the 100 most influential people? At the time, it seemed like a career high. But now, people were revisiting it through a different lens, seeing it as just another overly curated moment in a long list of staged rollouts. Then came the memes, the TikToks, entire Reddit threads dedicated to dissecting her facial expressions, her pauses, her vocabulary. Every PR move was treated like a puzzle. Why does she keep talking about being in the trenches when she lived in a castle? Why does every project fall apart under the weight of its own messaging? And the biggest question of all, why does Meghan Markle keep trying to be relatable when it's the one thing no one believes she is? Because here's the truth, relatability isn't something you can brand. You either are or you're not. And no amount of handwritten letters, tearful interviews, or barefaced podcasts is going to change how people feel if they don't buy the message. Worse, it started affecting everything she touched. Fans who once defended her turned silent. Former allies in the press wrote cooler headlines. The public narrative shifted from misunderstood trailblazer to overexposed celebrity grasping for control. Even her husband, Prince Harry, who had his own critics, started getting dragged into the fallout. When he spoke publicly in support of her projects, it didn't land as noble. It landed as scripted support in a crumbling empire. The more they tried to reclaim the story, the more it slipped away. And maybe that's the real problem. Not the podcast, not the show, not even the lifestyle brand. Maybe Meghan Markle hasn't figured out that you can't control how people perceive authenticity. You either live it or you lose it. So who is Meghan Markle? Really? Is she a misunderstood innovator? A woman trying to rewrite the rules in a world that wants her to fail? Someone bold enough to cry on a podcast, launch a brand from scratch, and break free from the royal machine? Or is she the architect of her own collapse? A skilled image builder who overplayed her hand, mistaking media saturation for trust and polished emotion for truth? Because in the end, one thing's clear, Meghan Markle is always performing. And the question that haunts every headline, every tear, every project, every softly whispered goodnight to a cake, is the performance ever going to stop? Or is this just the latest version of a story that's always been more fiction than fact? We may never know, but here's what we do know. The world doesn't crave perfection, it craves honesty. People connect with flaws, failures, and real growth, not staged tears or designer vulnerability. And in chasing a perfect version of herself, Meghan might have lost the one thing no brand can fake: trust. Let us know what you think in the comments. Was this a fall from grace, or just the next chapter in the most controversial reinvention story of the decade? Because whether you love her, hate her, or just can't stop watching, Meghan Markle is still commanding the conversation. And maybe that was the plan all along.